So a lot of people talk about comparing different fencing styles, and the ones that commonly come up are the French style and the Italian style. So what's your take on that?
Well, the first question to ask is there any difference between the French school and the Italian school? Let's start with that. And then we can ask, if there are any differences, are those differences material in any way? Are they important in any way? You know, people love to categorize shit into black or white, either or, up or down type categories. And you know, your brain does that automatically because it's a survival mechanism from the olden days, man. When we were swinging from the trees, and our big decision of the day was, can I eat that, or is it going to eat me? Right? So it was really important to divide the world out into edible and So. The saying that when the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to treat everything as if it were a nail. Well, no matter how good your hammer is, and no matter how good you are at using it, everything is not a fucking nail. So these either or categorizations, I find, are more often inaccurate, no matter how convenient they happen to be for simple minds. So when people look for separating things out, they look at differences between things primarily. I don't. I look for similarities between things, and maybe this becomes because I've done 100 dozen different styles of karate, right? And there's all kinds of ways to throw a punch. All kinds of ways to throw a punch. Standing on one leg, standing on your head, whatever, right? All kinds of ways to throw a punch. But you know what I find? Not a single karate style I encountered ever advised you to fold your thumb inside your fist to throw a punch. And if you don't understand why, go ahead and try it. They all had one thing in common. They was hit with those two big knuckles right there. Don't hit on your little finger, right? So all these differences that they have, yeah, but what it comes down to is nail the sucker with those two big knuckles. However you get there, we can argue about that. So the similarity, what they all share, that's the truth, man. The differences between them, those could be just idiosyncratic, right? But the thing they all share, you're much more likely to find the truth in that than any place else. So that's a tip from your Uncle Adam, all right? Remind me to tell you the story about red tie and blue tie sometime, speaking of this. Most of the time, when someone presents you with an either-or thing, philosophers call that a false dichotomy, right? There's black over here and there's white over here, and you got to choose between those two, right? When in fact, there's 1,000 different shades of gray in between. You don't have to be all black or all white. You could be one of those shades of gray, right? So somebody who's pushing you into buying into this dichotomy, there's a really good chance that they're trying to manipulate you in some way, or they're just fucking stupid, in which case you should disregard whatever they say, right? And here's where that red tie, blue tie comes in, but let's stick with the Italian thing. Okay, if you wanted to read the Cliff Notes version of this bullshit, you would read that the Italian school is characterized by a strong, aggressive movements, beats on the blade, attacks so fair, and that kind of stuff. I mean, one of the things. And you'd find that the French school is characterized by deception and dexterity and all that stuff. So they're telling you that the Italian school is yang and the French school is yin, if you want to look at it that way. Here's the thing. I have crossed blades with a staunch member of the Italian school, Dr. William Gogler. Great guy. And an excellent swordsman. And I have crossed blades with my teacher, Jean-Jacques Gillet, who was a devotee from the, as you might guess, French school. And here's the thing. Dr. Gogler had every bit of deceptiveness and dexterity and sentiment de faire as Maître Gillet. And Maître Gillet could beat that blade right out of your fucking hand or do a prise de fer and shove it up your nose, just as well as Dr. Gogler could. What I'm saying is that there's nothing you can do with a sword that cannot be done by a member of the Italian school or a member of the French school, because the sword doesn't give a fuck. It is what it is. So these, I mean, and some people love to make a fetish out of the academic hair splitting of trivial details, because they think it makes them look like they know what they're talking about. But it's largely shit that doesn't matter. So are these distinctions ever important? The answer is yes, but not for the reason you think. It's important to know if your opponent is a hardcore member of the Italian school or the French school. That is to say, if his conception of things is such that he will do things that he regards as part of the Italian school, but he won't do things that he regards as part of the French school, it's good for you to know that, because you can anticipate what his choices are going to be. Right? So it's only important that you know if your opponent believes in that shit. You know, if he believes in witchcraft, you can use that against him too. Right? And this may be on that level. So it has that kind of importance, but you yourself, you know, styles are for suckers, man. All you have to remember is never arm wrestle an octopus. What I mean is, if your opponent conceives of the fight as a boxing encounter, then don't box with him. Don't box with a boxer. Don't wrestle with a wrestler. Don't try and out-jiu-jitsu a jiu-jitsu guy, right? Don't allow your opponent to define the nature of this engagement. You define that. Right? It is helpful, however, if you understand how your opponent conceives of this engagement, because that's what allows you to do what? Become the locus of control of your opponent's behavior.